She is now a constant inspiration for me through relay. Since freshman year, I was just on a team. I wasn't even team captain. And then sophomore year, I wanted to be on the committee, and now I wanted to be on exec. And I would like to continue to be on exec or even be director next year. But I mean, my mom, I had her for 19 years, and she taught me a lot. Made me be a fighter, independent, smart, and it was a privilege to have her. So just even through all of that like hardship and her suffering and loss, like I've just been able to like fully dedicate myself and be all about relay and finding a cure, because I don't want anybody else to have to say goodbye to their mom and not have them there for their wedding day. Yeah, the happy memory that I had is like my mom used to always like jam out in the car and like do air drums on like the steering wheel, and like every time any of the songs come on, I just like think of her. That's so funny though. Like the song "Fix You" is like pretty much my family's like song, like just through like her whole battle, because that was one of her favorite songs, because she was obsessed with Coldplay and U2 and everything, and Dave Matthews Band and Coldplay. Like "Fix You" is like one of her favorite songs, and during the part where the drums start to come in, she would jam out during that and just like air drum it out, and like so funny. It was just like, and that song, like it's emotional now, and especially that song is just so perfect, like when we were going through like her treatments and everything going on with her. It was like it was like exactly what was going on. I would probably say to remain strong throughout whoever you're caring for, throughout their battle, because they need you there fighting for them, since they're having a tough time fighting the cancer. And to know that even if they can't win their battle, that they tried their hardest, and that you should take like motivation and inspiration from their courage and their strength, and just take that into your daily life and just live your life the way that they would.
My papa was battling prostate cancer, and in early December I got a phone call, and he had a tumor on his pancreas, and they removed it and found out that he had pancreatic cancer. So they went through the treatments, and he was in and out of the hospital a lot. On February 17th, they told him he had about 1 to 2 more months left to live. 2 days later, he passed away from the pancreatic cancer. When he was diagnosed, they weren't really sure what the cancer was going to be like at that point, and this was in December. I had just gotten home for winter break, and so they weren't really sure, what the outcome was going to be at this point. He had just had, really extensive surgery, so they were going to wait for him to recover from the surgery first, and then they were going to go through with the chemo, and then if he made it through the chemo okay, they would go through with the radiation. And then when they gave him 1 to 2 months left to live, it was about a week before spring break. And I called him that day, and I'm so thankful that I did, because it was the last time I got to talk to him. And the last thing he told me was, I want to hear from you every day, because he knew his time was running short. And I kept telling him, I'll be home for spring break. I'll see you in a week. And I never got to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My favorite memory, I guess, with my papa and me and my family is they had a pool in their backyard, so we would always have cookouts and play dance music, and me and my cousins would always giggle and laugh at papa doing the chicken dance with his little chicken legs around the pool and singing along with the song. And then my favorite memory with me is when my papa would take my Barbie dolls, and him and my brother and my little cousin would draw tattoos all over the arms and legs of my Barbie dolls in Sharpie, so I would never be able to get it off, and all my Barbies would have anchors on their arms and hearts on their legs. I think the number one life lesson that I'm taking from this right now is to really appreciate your family and to really appreciate the people that you have with you. Losing my papa really made me realize that time is short and life is short, and you really need to take advantage of everything that you can. I wish every day that I had more time with my papa. And so now I want to spend as much time with all my family and all my friends that I can, so that I won't have to wish that I had more time. So I can say, I've really fulfilled that relationship. And, there's just so many other things that I wanted to do with my papa before he left. And now I'm going to make sure that I really do those things with my other family members. And I really do get to take advantage of the life that I have and the life that they have. To any of the caregivers, I would just tell them, you're not alone, and you are going through this fight as well, and sometimes that can be overlooked, but you aren't alone, and that you have a support system, and you have friends, and you have family, and you have thousands of other people who are going through this with you, and it's okay to reach out, and it's okay to get that help and that support, because you can't do it alone. You think you can, but you really can't. And then just to everyone else, people are dying every day from cancer, and time is literally running out. We need a cure, and I'm not going to get to have my papa watch me graduate or be at my wedding or anything like that, but somebody else may get that opportunity because of us finding a cure. And I think that's the most important thing right now, is do it for you. Do it for your family members.
My grandmother had an identical twin sister, and she is one who was diagnosed with cancer, but I also consider her my other grandmother, since she was like the same role in my life and played the grandmother figure for me as well. So when they were both 40, before I was even born, they both were told they had tumors, but they were not cancerous, but suggested to get them removed by the doctor. And my grandmother got them removed when her twin sister chose not to, because she didn't want to get rid of her uterus yet. About 6 years later, so 2 years before I was born, my grandmother's twin sister called her and told her she had cancer, and it was because of those tumors and not getting them removed. So she obviously started chemotherapy treatments instantly, and my grandmother, for every chemotherapy treatment she had and surgery, flew from Boston, where she lived, to Laredo, where her twin sister lived, drove her twin sisters to San Antonio Hospital, got chemotherapy treatments there with her, held her hand, was there for all her surgeries for 6 years straight, all her chemotherapy treatments for 6 years straight, and would drive her back to Laredo and nurse her back to health. The hardest part for my grandma's twin sister was losing her hair during the chemotherapy treatments, because when they were both younger, they always grew their hair out super long, never cut it. And to make her feel better, my grandmother decided to shave all her hair off with her twin sister to make her feel less self-conscious during the treatments and to make her still feel beautiful. When I was born, my other grandmother already had cancer, basically, and I never really realized it, because she came to all our family vacations mostly, and she was usually well when she came to our family vacations. I never really realized she had cancer until the very end, when I was younger, and we went to Laredo, and she was on her deathbed, and there's nothing they could really do. The treatments had to stop, the surgery stopped, because it had spread so far onto all her different organs and her brain, and there was nothing that doctors could do. So at that point, I knew something was wrong, because my grandmother was crying all the time and was in deep, deep, deep pain. And it wasn't because she was in physical pain like her twin sister was because of cancer, it's because she was losing part of her. As an identical twin, and being there for 6 years at her bedside for all her treatments and surgeries, she went through this with her, and this was the time when she finally realized that she was going to lose her best friend and her twin sister. From learning from my grandmother, I would just say being very supportive and always being there. I don't think there's anything more you can do than just be there for them. Obviously, you can't do the treatments for them, and you can't take on the pain for them, but just holding their hand and being supportive and letting them and praying with them at all times is probably one of the best things you can do. Also, reassuring them, like my grandmother cut off her hair, which not saying everyone should cut off their hair, but helping them with their self-confidence, because sometimes, especially girls, are really self-conscious of losing their hair, and just always being loving and supportive.